Okay, so I just pressed it. All right, so this is the schedule. We're going to try to stick to the schedule, but sometimes we go off. And even as an educator, you need to know that sometimes you might have a schedule and it might not always go as planned. Do not freak out. I get it. A lot of us are very organized and on top of the game, OCD, whatever. I am one of them. And I love schedules. I love lists. I love all that good stuff. But sometimes we have to accept that it's not going to work like that. And you don't want to stress yourself out. So week one, this is going to be somewhat of what we're going to try to follow as much as possible. So the intro, welcome message, which I just did. We're going to go with some rules, nothing crazy, just what's expected. This is the schedule. We're going to do an icebreaker. We don't have many on right now. We have about 11. So it should be really quick. Just share. I'll show you exactly what we're going to be asking. If you don't feel comfortable sharing, you can type it in the chat box, whatever. But remember, this is going to be the perfect opportunity to practice public speaking. You're going to be in front of the classroom. You're going to be entertainer. You're going to be the, front and center. So it's better to practice now to get comfortable with that. Okay. Okay. Icebreaker strategies to help building confidence. That's what we're going to start with. Then we're going to go into identifying out why. So maybe start thinking about, what is your why right now, right? Why did you get into education? And then don't think that your why is not important, right? Oh, it's silly. I don't want to share it. Oh, it's dumb or whatever. I'm not even sure. Think about that, right? Because that's going to keep you grounded and keep you right where you are when things hit the fan and things get rough. When we went through the pandemic, there were so many educators that wanted to switch their fields, and it just made them very bitter and just they didn't feel like they were meant to be in this position. And as an educator, you need to stick to what you wanted. This is your calling, and this is your purpose. Your why is going to keep you in that, and no matter what happens. And there's going to be things that happen, trust me. And we'll share personal stories so you get an idea. So think of your why, and if you feel comfortable with sharing, and then you can share. Okay. I also have my why. I have a video. I might share it with you guys, or I might just verbally share it with you. So because my video is pretty long, it's part of my leadership portfolio, so I can cut it short for you guys based on the time. Then we're gonna have Nicole share teacher wellness and self-care. And then we're gonna wrap it up with takeaways. What were your thoughts? What were your concerns? And we're gonna have a little, I don't wanna say homework, but more of something just to work on and think about. Every week we're gonna have something that you should focus on when you finish the boot camp. Just for you to, All right, so rules, respect one another. Don't, no past judgment. If you have something you feel, keep it to yourself. This is going to be something where we want to feel comfortable and confident in sharing. We want to feel like this is a safe space for everyone. Okay. So be very mindful of the things you say, even in the classroom. We got to think before we talk, right? We don't just want to share something because it's there. We don't want to have just, spit things out. So be very respectful, try not to be judgmental, try to have an open mind, okay? And take notes, take lots of notes. Like I said, I'm gonna provide a guidebook, but there might be things that I might say that might not be in the guide, because the guidebook is gonna be snapshots of what we go over. And I highlighted no dumb question. A dumb question is one not asked. Because some people think, oh, it's a silly question or it's dumb. I'm embarrassed to ask. No, ask the question, because somebody else might be thinking, but they might not ask that, right? And you might help someone else. All right. So we're going to start with icebreakers. We're going to say our name, our location, what grade you teach or will teach. And if you feel comfortable with, if you can give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be? All right. So I'm going to, I don't know. I can cold call, or you can just unmute yourself and share. I'll start. My name is Geneva Rodriguez. I am in Suffolk County, but I work in Brooklyn, born and raised in Brooklyn. So I don't rep Long Island. I rep Brooklyn. What grade do I teach? I teach 7th to 12th grade, District 75. So all the students are between 7th to 12th grade. They're 13 years old to 21, they age out. This year they extended it because of the pandemic. So we might have some 22-year-olds in there. And I teach, in special education, you're licensed to teach everything. And in District 75, we're teaching all subjects. So I teach all subjects right now. And one piece of advice I would give my younger self, what would it be? I was very shy, and some people might think that's, I work with some people that are on here. Some people have met me through programs, and they're like, shy? Yeah, right. I was shy until like junior high school, and then something happened. I came out my shell, and then I just stopped. I never stopped talking. So, so my one piece of advice would be like, just break out of that shell earlier. I think that would be one piece of advice. Break out of that shell earlier and just be true to myself and how I feel. And don't care what other people think. All right. So if you want to be brave and unmute yourself and share, go ahead.
I'll share. My name is Alexis. I'm also a New York City teaching fellow, and I'm also in D75. I'm also from Brooklyn, but I teach all the way in the Bronx. The Bronx is a high needs area, especially for students with disabilities. I'm going into my second year, but I feel like this year is going to be my true first year because of the pandemic. I unfortunately had to, in the teaching fellows, we do like our little summer training, and my training was actually remote. So come September, I had to jump into the classroom, not having any type of in-person training. So you guys can only imagine I was like really put in there. But, luckily my school gave me a coach. The fellows, they extended the summer program into the fall because of that. So then I had another coach from my school in the fall. So I had two coaches. And I had the support of the staff. I got to know the RSPs. And like I said, teaching is a continuous learning experience. So you're always gonna learn something every year, every day, every month. So you just have to be open to learning. And one piece of advice that I could give my younger self would be, don't be afraid to try new things. I can't wait.
Perfect. Thank you for being so brave, and you are fellow. Yes, repping. I'm so excited. All right, thank you. Who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Stephen Julian. Actually, I live on Staten Island, but I work in Brooklyn. I work with Miss Rodriguez, unfortunately.
I'm gonna get you.
I'm sure you will. Like I said, I live on Staten Island. I work in Brooklyn. I'm also obviously D75, so I'm certified for 7th to 12th grade. One piece of advice I would give to myself, I would say sign up for the Board of Ed a lot sooner. I waited too long. This is my third year. September will actually be my fourth year. So yeah, I would definitely have done this sooner. I wanted to, but I didn't have the confidence. I didn't think I would be a good teacher. So it took me a while. I worked 20 years as a social worker with with children that are mentally ill. So I'm always with this population. But yeah, I wish I had done this sooner. I love it. I love the interaction with the kids. I love seeing the growth, as small as it is, but just being around them. I love that population. So that would be one advice.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Mr. Julian. All right, who's next?
I can go next.
Okay,
so my name is Damaris Nunez. I am currently a fellow doing my summer training. Next week is my last week. I'm also D75, 7 through 12. I'm going to be teaching in the Bronx. And my training was also like remote, although student teaching is in person, but I'm just like feeling like very overwhelmed and like I'm not going to be prepared enough, even though like it is very detailed, the training. I just feel like in SBS, like they're not really giving us things that are like real life examples, what will work in the classroom for me, at least as a D75 teacher. So I feel like any help I can get, like I'm willing to take it all in. I'm like a sponge. I'm willing to take everything in. So I'm really glad that this opportunity is available. So if I could give myself a piece of advice was to be probably more open-minded. I didn't start considering being a teacher until maybe like 2 years ago. But now I see like how the potential that I have and like how motivated I am to be in this field. So just be more open-minded when I was younger.
Perfect. Thank you. And I love how she says she's a sponge, because that's going to be part 2, accepting that you're a lifelong learner. We're going to show you how you can continuously grow inside and outside of the classroom. And yeah, this is going to be perfect for you because I'm D75. I'm going to try to, that's why I asked other people to host, because they have other areas of expertise, but D75, and I can definitely send you tons of resources. And week 3 is going to have a lot of stuff about how to work in the classroom with the students of all different levels. Okay, so thank you, Damaris.
Geneva, I'm going to piggyback off of Damaris.
Awesome.
So my name is Jenna Schiffman. I work in Queens. I'm going into my 6th year. I was a 4th grade teacher for all of this time, and I just got out of the classroom actually, which I don't know if I'm happy or sad about yet. I will let you know. But I am a cluster teacher now, and I'm doing technology. I'm teaching technology K through 5, and supporting my administration. As Geneva said, I did my administration with her. So now I'm kind of moving into that field within my own school. So what did I want to say? Damaris, when you spoke, it reminded me because I'm an adjunct professor for student teachers. So I kind of observe them when they're in their last semester, right before they graduate, I give them feedback and things like that. And the last year obviously was all remote for my student teachers, because although we were in school, some of us, they weren't allowed in the school buildings. And they were saying a lot of the same things that you said, I don't feel prepared. I don't feel like I have enough. I don't feel like I'm going into this with like reality. But what I want to say is, and I told them the same thing, you guys are more prepared than many of the teachers that are already in the school building, because, whether we like it or not, technology has really taken over education. And although it'll never replace teachers, it's a whole new way of thinking and teaching. So don't feel badly about, I don't know anything about what they're teaching you. I'm not familiar with that program, but if it's just because it was remote, just know that you probably have more tools in your toolkit than many of the teachers already in the buildings.
Right.
And one piece of advice to give my younger self, I would say as a new teacher, I felt very intimidated by the teachers who were there already for a long period of time. And I was the girl who came in and like Geneva, I had the Instagram and I had the materials everywhere and the links and the this and the that and all the fun colors. And many of the teachers in my building were like, you need to like relax, sit down, take a breath. Like, you're the new girl, just watch and you'll see how it's done. And don't get intimidated by that. Don't let anybody kind of dull your sparkle. My best advice would be really to just close your door and do what you know is best for those kids and do it in your own way. Don't let anybody take away your passion or your knowledge. Even if you're a new teacher, you're coming in with more than you think.
Right. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Jenna. That was really good. Yeah. And we're going to go into that. Like, you have to accept that, you coming in with something special because you are fresh out of school. You're fresh with the new ideas. A lot of these teachers are so like, it's like they autopilot at this point, like they're just going through the motion. They're ready to retire, or they don't want nothing new changing because they're so stuck to the routine. And guess what? Education is all about switching up. And I think that's why it works so well for me, because I'm all over the place and I love just no 2 days are the same, especially with District 75. No 2 days are the same. And you have to accept that. And when I teach, I'm like this too. I'm very animated and extra, and my energy is like on 100. And I had the same thing going in. Teachers like, okay, relax. Like, your bulletin doesn't need to be changed every 2 weeks. You don't need those pretty colors. Yes, I do. This is my space. I'm excited. I'm passionate about it. And I'm going to share that with the kids. And the kids feed off of that. We're going to go into that. The relationships, they feel the kids, they feed off that energy and that vibes, and you want that relationship with them. So you be you, and don't worry about what the next door teacher is doing if they want to stick to their old school chalk and board type of style, All right, who's next? Thank you, Jenna.
I'll go next.
I'll go. Oh.
Okay, go ahead, somebody.
Thank you so much for those shares, by the way. I love hearing the advice to your past selves. So I'm Nicole Quintana-wolf. I'm a former teacher. So I taught in Southside Chicago and also in the Bronx, most recently, high school English. And I transitioned out of the classroom last year to become a full-time teacher wellness coach. So a piece of advice I would give to my past self would be to believe in myself. I spent the first couple of years, especially as a teacher, just really doubting myself, having imposter syndrome, and kind of wondering like, who put me in charge here? And to really just go back and like have that confidence to know that I was doing a good job. And like Geneva and Jenna were saying, you come with all of these new ideas and this like fresh sparkle, and to really really capitalize on that and just believe that you are doing a good job and you are showing up for your students.
Right. Thank you, Nicole. That was perfect. All right, who's next? I think Danielle, you wanted to, yeah. Hi.
Hi, so my name is Danielle. I'm from Long Island. I am certified from birth to 6th grade in special education. So I have been a sub for about 3 years now. So I'm in the process of looking for a full-time teaching position as an elementary teacher or special ed teacher, District 75. So it's been a little overwhelming right now. So I'm excited to become a teacher.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really excited. So I think one piece of advice I'll give to myself and for the future as a teacher, I guess take it day by day to learn experience. You know, I'm here for the passion that I always wanted to be a teacher. Yeah, so.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you. And I love it. I can hear the energy and the excitement, and that's good. Like, we need that. Like, when you are a teacher, no matter what grade it is, like, you need to have a passion for it, because, and it comes from your heart when you're teaching, because it's needed. The kids need it. The students know that no matter what grade, no matter if they're special needs or general, like a lot of people think, oh no, they're generalized curriculum, academics. No, like they need those relationships, and we're going to go into the importance of that. Okay. So thank you for sharing. Who's next?
I will go.
Hi.
My name is Jenny, and I live in Western Kentucky. A little far off from where you guys are. I live in Murray, but I'm going to teach in Paducah, which is like an hour north, and I was just hired recently. And I am going to go through the alternative certification program. So I have worked for about 7 years with pre-service and K-12 teachers teaching about ed tech. So I don't have experience in the classroom, and I don't have that learned experience from college. So I'm coming in with just what I've learned from other teachers through the past few years. And my husband's a teacher in the same school district, so I have kind of a built-in mentor. And of course, I'll have a mentor in my department. And so I'm, stepping into a whole new world here. But I will be teaching high school math, mostly freshmen. So, and a piece of advice to myself younger and today would be to have confidence and don't worry about what other people think. So.
Perfect. Welcome. And that is so great that you are open to learn from so many people, and you have those people, you have that support group. That's going to be so important. You have your husband, which is going to be the great, and you're inside the school. But welcome, and thank you for joining us from so far away. The power of social media. All right. Who's next?
Hi, I'm not sure if you can see me, but my name is Erica.
I see you. Hi.
Okay. I live in Suffolk County. Last year, I started off as a perm sub, and then I was put into a classroom. I had to take over for a teacher. My content area is, I'm certified in French. Ooh. I'm not really excited about the French. I went to Dowling many years ago. So I'm just trying to figure out which content area I can change to. But I may be back in the classroom next year for a full-time French position. And a piece of advice I would give myself is just to stop worrying.
Right. Thank you and welcome, French.
Thank you.
Well, I guess we'll talk about why you're not as confident later in going into teaching French in the classroom, but you're going to get a lot of exposure here to different types, different levels, all grades, different locations. So it'll hopefully it'll give you a little bit insight or like help you make a decision. But you got to be happy and confident and wanting to do what you're doing, because you want to wake up every day looking forward to your job. And that is very important. That's why I changed from I was in the legal field for years, straight out of high school, and I was miserable. It was so cubicle, routine, blah, blah, blah. And then I shifted to a teacher, and I used to always make excuses to not go to work. I would want to call out. It was miserable. And once I became a teacher, I literally wake up every day looking forward to work. So you need to have that type of help you get through. But welcome, Erica. Anybody?
Thank you.
Who's next?
I'll go. My name is Jennifer Earls. I work with Jenny in Western Kentucky at Murray State University. I am the director of the Kentucky Academy of Technology Education. And like Jenny said, we work with K-12 teachers as well as our faculty and pre-service teachers in our college to get them comfortable with technology and think about how to use technology in the classroom. I'm very sad that Jenny is leaving, but I think she's going to be a fantastic teacher. She's very passionate. She's done our Girls Who Code Club for many, many years and has done a really good job with that. I think she's going to be fantastic in the classroom. I appreciate you, Geneva, for doing this. I was really excited to sit in and just kind of see what you all have to say, because I think something on probably a more slimmed down model for our pre-service teachers would be a great service we can provide in our college, just to help them build up their resources and their network, try to pull in some of the local teachers. So thank you for letting me join. One of the things, oh, and I should say too, I am a previous high school biology teacher. So that's kind of my background coming in, and got excited about tech and went back to school and got a graduate degree. And then here I am. So the piece of advice I would give myself, and it's pretty much a lot like what you all are saying, but it's just go for it. Don't be afraid. It's amazing when you look back at your younger self, how many things you don't do because you're afraid.
Right.
And I just, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. And for joining us, Jennifer. And that's a great piece of advice. Like, everyone needs to know that. Just go for it. And I think all of us are saying that, right? So we can help other people, our younger, our students in the classroom, like, giving them that confidence and letting them know, like, go for what you desire, and don't wait. Don't wait. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Anybody else want to share? Let's see.
I think I can go if nobody else wants to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Anna.
Hi. Hi, I'm Anna Maria. So I'm living in Queens right now, but I want to move to like New Rochelle, Westchester area. Because I'm teaching in at Bronx River High School in September. I'm going to be with 9th and 10th graders teaching earth science. And I guess the piece of advice that I'll give my younger self would be like, similar to Geneva with like being kind of shy when I was younger, kind of like taking a leap and, doing things out of my comfort level, and just seeing where that goes.
Welcome. Thank you. Yeah. And definitely in education, you're going to have many opportunities to do that. We are performers, and you're going to see that. So thank you for joining us. Anybody else want to share? I don't know if everybody did. I was trying to check off to make sure. I think we have one more person that didn't share, if they feel comfortable doing it. Mayra Rivera. She has her okay, so I guess we can move on. If she's not comfortable sharing, that's fine. Hopefully by week 2, week 3, they will feel okay. All right, so we'll move on now. So we're gonna go into, thank you everyone for joining. For joining and for sharing, and super excited. All right, so we're gonna go into confidence. Week 1 is all about your confidence and thinking about why you don't have the confidence. And I got an idea from some people, and when they shared why they might not have confidence going into the classroom. And we have a mixture of a lot of people. Some people are in the classroom, some people are going into the classroom, some have been in the classroom, right? So we want to focus on your confidence and remember your why, right? So confidence in your instructional practice is going to help you become effective teachers, right? Our goal is to become effective teachers. When you are being observed, I don't know if everywhere else is using the Danielson rubric, but remember, we use a rubric and has developing, ineffective, effective, highly effective, right? Our goal is to become effective teachers, right? And it is unfortunate that a rubric is, according to an administrator, will determine that, right? But more or less with the relationships you build with your students if you are being effective in their life, in the classroom. But that confidence, you're going to get that when you get that confidence in what you're doing in your instructional practices, is going to help you become an effective teacher, because you're going to go in there, you're going to know what your goal is, you're going to focus on it. And anybody coming into your classroom to observe you, you're not going to freeze, you're not going to freak out. And trust me, I still get nervous, and I've been, a teacher for a long time. I still get nervous when administrators come into my classroom, and I know what I'm doing. I know what my students need. Like I'm confident in my instructional practices, but it's just knowing someone coming in and they have this power to put on a piece of paper if you're effective or not. It is nerve-wracking, right? It is nerve-wracking, but we need to have that confidence within ourselves and confidence in our instructional practice. That way, when if anybody comes in, administrator or another teacher, we still do what we have to do for our students. So let's first think about why we might not be confident. Like I said, I heard some teachers saying, you know, because they didn't get the practice in the classroom, you know, everything was remote. But like Jenna said, you know, like if you did remote and you were able to teach remotely, like you know, like you have an advantage because technology is what it is now, right? You know, we know that the pandemic hit us and a lot of schools were not ready because they were not tech savvy. They didn't have the technology or they weren't using technology in the classroom, especially a lot of D75 students, right? We spent the first few months just teaching our parents how to get on the devices, or the students how to navigate, right? So even if you just got this experience from, you know, working remotely, you have an advantage. So don't look at it as a disadvantage. Look at it as like, you know what, I have something that other teachers didn't have when they first started. Like I know how to now use Zoom and get my students on Zoom. I know how to use strategies online. I have all these resources on different websites and different apps that I can use for my students. Now you can use that in the classroom as well, because we want to remember, we don't want to take away the technology. We still got to use it and implement it in the classroom when we're in the building. So I know some of us share we're not confident because we didn't get the in-classroom experience. Is there anybody else that wants to share something about why are you not confident in your instructional practice?
I can share something about
Okay.
my experience. I don't think I said it in the introduction, but I went through Teaching Fellows, which is similar to Teaching Collaborative. But with Teaching Fellows, you actually are in the classroom from January to June.
No, you went through Teaching Collaborative.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
No,
Teaching
not Teaching Fellows.
Yeah, with Teaching Collaborative, you go from January to June.
Yeah.
I know Teaching Fellows is through the summer.
Yes.
But again, like I said, I was not sure if I would be a good teacher. I always, you know, questioned myself. And for me, I did not have a good coach in the classroom. You know, the relationship started very well, but then it just went downhill over time. So even through that, I was questioning, am I going to be a good teacher?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, September comes and it's like I was just thrown in the classroom and it's like, here you go. Now it's yours. So fortunately, the 36 is a small school. We're occupying a very small part of a larger school. So the support was great. And that's the thing, you want to take advantage of the teachers that are open to helping you. You know, you don't want to feel like you're in it alone. But just the experience I had was having me question whether I really wanted to do this and whether I can do it. But fortunately, like I said, I had a lot of support with a few of the teachers that were there. And again, building a relationship with the students, that was, I would say that I'm very good with building a relationship with students because, you know, I was a social worker prior to teaching. So that helped. But just being a teacher and the experience I had, I was really questioning if this was the right move for me.
Right.
You know, but it's worked out so far. So.
Yeah. All
I
right.
wanted to add.
That's awesome. Yep.
So I know that some of us work in District 75, and I felt like for me, the lack of confidence came from like having those extra eyes on me, like the paras.
Right.
And you know, my paras have more experience than I did in the classroom. So sometimes I would feel like you know, I have to perform or do something a certain way because in my mind they're like comparing me to the teachers that they were working with. So I kind of felt like I was being held up, I don't know, to like a standard of, you know, we worked with these types of teachers before and you're like the newbie, and just that overall being compared to, I guess, teachers with more experience.
Right. Right. But that's why we're going to go over utilizing that staff in the classroom, because yes, while they know more, you can use them to help you work the classroom, right? That is your team. That is your team. And I felt similar going into the classroom. I felt like, oh, I have these paras that have been in the game for like 20 years. I'm a new teacher. I'm not going to have, they're not going to show me respect, or they're going to feel like they can go over my head and this and that. But those relationships you build with them, that's going to be crucial for your success in the classroom for the students, right? And the most important thing is those relationships with the students. Yes, you have your parents in the classroom, you might have service providers, right? So District 75, I know a lot of people, and not everyone works in the city. So that is for, we have a lot of staff that's in the classrooms and out of the classrooms because it's for students with severe to moderate disabilities. They are alternate assessed, they don't get diplomas, but they have a lot of needs, right? Some take counseling, some get speech, some get OT, occupational therapy, they get physical therapy. We have paras in the classroom because some students need one-to-one support, whether it comes to behavior or health, right? Or academics, well, all of them need academics. So sometimes we might have 5 paras in the class, which is 5 additional staff members. And on top of the students you have, so it can be very hectic and, a lot, very overwhelming, not only for you, but the students as well. But it's important to build those relationships early on. And we're going to go into that. Building those relationships the first few weeks is crucial. Don't even worry about the academics those first few weeks. You're working on building those relationships. Those are going to be your partners. That's going to be your team for the whole school year. And the only way that school year is going to go as smooth as possible is if you work together and not against, right? And I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake. They think, I'm above this paraprofessional, I'm above this person. They have this mentality, I am the boss of the classroom, right? And that mentality, toss that, throw it in the trash, bury it, get rid of that. As an educator, that is not going to get you nowhere, anywhere. It's not going to get you anywhere. We need to utilize everyone we have. And they know, like you said, they know those students so much more than you. They've been there for a while, right? Ask them when you have your team meetings, right? Make it a part of your routine of team meeting, maybe once a week, twice a week, touch base just with your parents. Let them know what you're teaching. Don't have them blindsided, not knowing what's going on in your classroom, and ask them, okay, you've been here, you know the students, give me some tips. What works best for them? Like, what is the behavior plan? What incentives do they like, right? Because a lot of times all these students have IEPs, but there's some information that these teachers might know that's not in the IEP, like, oh, this student likes cars, or this student likes trains, or this student needs frequent breaks, right? Or this student likes when the lights are dim. If you scream, it might be a trigger for them, right? So we need to talk to all the staff. And again, this is going to come on later on in the week. So I get that 100% about going in and thinking that someone has more experience than you, but utilize that. That is going to be something that's going to help you better because they know more. That means they can share that wisdom with you, and then you know more, right?
Geneva, can I build off of that?
Yes, perfect.
So I did my, for grad school, I graduated with special education actually, and I had to do an internship in District 75. And when I heard that, I was a little nervous because I had no experience with special ed at all. And without those paras in that classroom, I wouldn't have gotten by. They were the ones, of course, the teacher helped, my co-teacher, but the paras were the ones who really gave me those inside tips, those behind the scene tips that I'd never heard that weren't written in the textbook. They gave those to me because of their experience. So as a teacher, I was a student teacher then, but as a teacher now, I would build on Geneva by saying, yes, make it a team, make those relationships in the beginning. And without handing off jobs to the paras, include them by giving them jobs so that knowing, okay, you know what, you're supposed to be here for this child, then you have to worry about that child. But also I know you're really good at this, this, and this. Right. So I want you to be involved in the classroom related to that. Make it feel like a family and just show them that you appreciate them, because when people feel appreciated, they'll always work harder and be more respectful, right, and enjoy what they're doing.
Right. Perfect. That was perfectly said. Does anybody else want to share on why they might not have the confidence in going into the classroom? Besides not having the, experience. Okay, go ahead, Dania.
Well, I guess experience as well, but just not knowing what's going to happen. I think it's unknown, and like, especially for me, I don't know like where I'm going to be at or like what school I'm going to be at. It's just, it's a process. So I'm taking it day by day.
Perfect.
And that's basically it.
Yeah. I mean, that you're going to be taking on a teaching position, right? So that's that's given. You know that you're going to be working with students, that's given, right? So focus on what you know and what you can, build off of that. You might not know what school, you might not know what subject. If it's elementary, obviously you might be teaching all subjects, but focus on, like you seem very, like you seem excited and passionate about it. So, feed off of that, right? Like, I'm confident I'm going to build these relationships with the students. Like, like off the bat, the first few weeks is going to be all about relationship building. We're going to get into that too. The first few weeks is all about relationship building, all about me activities, right? Getting to know, sending home, meet the teacher newsletters to the parents, even sending surveys or, preference, assessments, like for the students, what are their weaknesses, what are their strengths? Like, those are the things you can focus on in the beginning, and then everything's going to smoothly come into place, because now you have a better idea, like, okay, I know this student like this student likes this, I know I'm working on this. So it will help you. And again, once you have some of that confidence going in, it's just going to start working together. And like Jenna said in the chat, or no matter where you are, the kids were going to be the censor. No matter what, the students are going to be the censor. And that's going to help you, whether you're, like you're nervous about not knowing enough for this, knowing you got those students that are depending on you, and just focus on that. The next one, what is preventing you from being confident in the classroom? That's kind of like similar to that, not having experience, not knowing where you're going. Does anybody else want to build over this before we go into the barriers you must overcome?
I would just like to share, just like knowing the material. I know for me, I spent a lot of time going on Teachers Pay Teachers and just purchasing worksheets, and then just trying to create a curriculum, because my school did not provide a curriculum. So yes, I do know French and I can speak it, but it's just trying to help those children retain the information. They were frustrated. They felt like they weren't learning. And I'm like, I'm spending hours and hours, money buying lesson plans and buying materials. And it was just like a total disaster at the end.
Yeah. I think in the beginning, I went crazy on Teacher Pay Teacher too. But then when you realize and I'm not trying to knock anybody that uses it, and anybody uses it as a side hustle, you do you. And if it works, it works. But once you get the hang of it, you can start making your own stuff. You take ideas from other resources, you put things together. We know District 75, we're constantly making our worksheets, so we need 3 levels of differentiation. And I don't want to only focus on District 75. I just know that there's a lot of teachers that are in District 75 here. But in general, you don't want to go broke. You don't want to go broke. And that's the tip that I'm going to be giving you guys later on too. You don't want to go broke. You need to find free resources. There are free resources. You can also put multiple resources together and make your own stuff, right? And that is why it's important for your PLN, right? Like, you get to know people on social media, online, you do your research just through Google, and Teacher Pay Teacher is very resourceful, is very helpful, and it does save time, right? And that's gonna be another thing, time management. There gotta be a balance. And I know that Nicole's gonna touch base on that too, about balancing and just knowing when you need to focus on this and when you need to focus on that. Is important to have a schedule and to balance. But as maybe my first 3 years, I was burned out because I was always lesson planning. I was always looking up activities, ideas, making worksheets, going on, TPT, spending money because, it was a little easier that way. But there are so many free resources online now, even more now after the pandemic. Everything is online, digital, it's free. Like, you can find so many free resources. It's going to be a little time consuming, but it'll be worth it at the end. And then, like, again, once you get into a routine and you have a system in place, you really won't spend as much time as lesson planning. You're going to become such a professional at lesson planning. You're going to be able to like plug in and just boom, boom, boom. And it's gonna go smoothly. So thank you for sharing that, Erica. Does anybody else have anything they want to share on the confidence, or why they might not be having confidence in going into the classroom or even currently in the classroom?
I just wanted to add, I'm kind of scared of like being compared to like the last year teacher that the student may have had. And then like, if the student like regresses, at least in the beginning, because I'm like not really sure what I'm doing, I'm like terrified that the parents are gonna like come for me and be like, yeah, she doesn't even know what she's doing. So yeah,
that's valid. That is real valid. And that was super like transparent. So thank you for that. That is real, because it is true. And I think that's an ongoing feeling for a lot of people, because we don't know, like, there might be a teacher that was doing awesome the year before, you come in and you feel like, but again, that goes back into the confidence. If you are District 75, you have an IEP that's going to be your guide, right? The students' goals and what they're working on, right? So use that to help build your lesson plans, build the activities for the students. And, you know, we also can't take it personal with students with disabilities, right? With District 75, again, going back to that, I'm sorry for everyone else that doesn't work it, but like Mr. Julian said, there's going to be small progress, if any, right? But that's why we're so focused on the relationships. You know, like students are going to remember you because of how you took the time to care for them, to take the time to teach them. Even if they don't master that skill, they're going to remember how you cared enough to even work with them on that, right? Regardless of their level of, you know, the cognitive level or your level of awareness, they're going to remember that. And their relationship with you is going to help along the way. It really is. So even if they don't master a goal, right? It's not your fault. Remember, students have these disabilities. They're in District 75 for a reason. And don't beat yourself up about that. I had to, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be super transparent right now and vulnerable. My first 2 years, like I cried almost every day in front of my board because I had a lot of students with emotional like behaviors, and they were EBD, and like they were very aggressive and angry, and I got the worst of it, right? Because I'm in front of them, but I want to care for them and take care of them, but they don't know how to express that, or they don't know how to cope with these certain feelings they had, right? And I had to give them those coping strategies. But I got called every name in the book. I don't even know what I should be called anymore. Like I got called every name in the book, and people that have worked with students with disabilities or EBD kids, they know that, right? Like it is very challenging, but you have to know that it's something that it's not your fault. It's not personal, right? And once you separate, then just know this is you build relationships. You want to care for them. You want to be empathetic. You're there to help them, but there might be things that you can't, is out of your control. It really is out of your control, and you can't beat yourself up. Once you accept that, listen, I'm here to try to help them master these goals, or to make some type of progress. And if you don't, you can't beat yourself up over it. But use that IEP as a guide and a baseline for you, and that would help you. Oh, you go ahead, Mr. Julian. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to add, your concern is valid, but also I think administration knows, the population, and they know that, the children learn at a different pace. Mm-hmm. And you're a new teacher, you're a new personality in there. And that's going to take time to manifest itself in terms of how the students respond and how the students process your way of teaching and so on. So don't feel like, it's all on you. Administration is aware of the process as well.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Damaris, that's happened to me before, where students will say, oh, like this year was my favorite, or this year was my favorite. And honestly, my first year, I really couldn't tell you what I did, in terms of curriculum or anything like that. Right. What I can tell you is I made relationships a number one priority. Mm-hmm. And I might have had no idea what I was doing in terms of anything else, but I know that I knew each one of those 30 kids inside and out. I knew their families, I knew their dogs, I knew everything about them. Right. And because of that, this first year teacher who has no idea what's happening, then they graduate and they're writing letters to you, that was the best year ever. And I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, I don't even know what I taught them. But what I do know is, we have that relationship. Right. And little things like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Class Dojo. I know, Geneva, you use it a lot, but Class Dojo has been such a game changer for me since year one, because I add those students on there. I allow the students to make their own codes so they can message me. And some teachers might say, it's 5 o'clock. Why are you allowing your student to message you? Right. And you know what? It's those moments when you reply to that student and you show them, I care about you outside of the classroom. You don't understand this homework. I'm going to send you a picture of exactly how I would solve it to kind of get you thinking a little bit. It's those little things that the families appreciate so much and the students appreciate so much, that when you go above and beyond, nothing else matters. So you mess up on a lesson. So you make a mistake. But without that relationship, that's everything. Right. Everything.
Right. Right. Thank you, Jenna. Does anybody have anything else to share about the confidence before we move forward, and how we can help build our own confidence? That's what we're going to go into next. I know we went over some, what are some reasons why we don't have confidence. We actually tied in some barriers that we might have to overcome, right? main thing, like we said, is relationships. People really underestimate the power of relationships, and it's important with everyone, mainly the students. So now we're going to go into the way we can actually, thank you everyone for sharing and being vulnerable and you know, sharing what they feel right now. We're going to go into techniques and strategies and help to build your confidence. This is not going to happen overnight. Okay. Like we're, you know, even if you're in 7, 8 years as a teacher, or even more, you still have these moments where you're going to doubt yourself, but you, within time, you learn to put in place these techniques and these steps to help you bounce back, right? So for me personally, before I go into each one here, I used to post on my mirror little quotes, even some Bible verses, whatever your, you know, preference is, positive, you know, little positive quotes on my mirror. I used to have it in my car. But you want to make it meaningful, right? Because some people, you post stuff and it's just there and it becomes just part of your furniture and it's not really effective. You want to make sure you're constantly using it, right? You're constantly reading it to yourself, speaking it to yourself, so that it actually is something that's playing in your head, right? And you want to believe it. It's just not something you want to read. So it takes time to shift your mindset into something positive like that. A lot of people are so stuck based on, you know, past experiences or just your upbringing, on thinking negative all the time, right? It's easier to think negative. You know, you think, oh, I'm preparing myself because, you know, worst comes to worst, I already thought it was going to happen. So I can, you know, this is fine. But you have to learn how to shift your mindset. And again, this is not going to happen overnight. And you guys can start trying to put together strategies and techniques that work for you, right? It's not for everybody. All of these might not work for you. So it might just be 1 or 2 things that work for you. So actually, before this boot camp, I was actually listening to this positive affirmation. So this is while you sleep, but I actually put it on and I was listening to it now because I got nervous before I did this boot camp, because I want this to be effective for you guys. I don't want to be wasting your time. I want you to pull something out of it, but we are our own worst critics and we always are so hard on ourselves, and we have to learn how to accept that we are, you know, like we're where we're supposed to be, and we are good at what we do, right? So that's basically what it is. We are good at what we do. And I constantly need that reminder. I know Mr. Julian, I talk to him and I vent to him a lot of times. He's become my buddy over the pandemic. And he has to sometimes tell me that, like, you know, you are good at what you do. And I really genuinely appreciate that and appreciate his friendship, because I had that. So even if there's someone in your life that can be that for you, embrace that and hold on to them, because we need that, not only for us, you know, for us to find things that work for us, but other people. Sometimes when we have other people tell it to us, it helps also. So this here, again, I will share this on in the guidebook. This helps me. It's about 7 hours long, but it's if you want to put it on when you're sleeping, or you want to listen to it before you have a lesson or an interview or your observation, whenever you feel like you need some words of inspiration or confidence, it's really good. It really was helping me. I listened to about a half hour before this and it helped. I wasn't as nervous when I came in. I was like, listen, I'm doing what I have to do. I'm speaking from my heart. I'm speaking from experience. It can't go wrong, right? Positive self-talk. So what I have done, I actually wrote a letter to myself and I keep it in my notepad on my phone, right? And it's just basically like reminders of things that I've overcome in life, things that I'm good at, my goals, right? And that has helped me, you know. So even if you write a letter, I don't write that here, but writing a letter to yourself about what your purpose is, what your goals are in life, what you've overcome, that, trust me, whenever you're having a moment of self-doubt or just you're feeling bad or just overwhelmed, read it. It will help you. Positive self-talk, you know, say it to yourself in the mirror. That's where the quotes can come in hand. That can be helpful. Your Bible verses, whatever works for you. You look in the mirror and say whatever you got to say to yourself. Whatever works for you, right? Again, everybody is different. Here I said positive quotes at home. Even at home and in school. So in my class, I'm going to share, I actually wrote some positive affirmations on my board in school. I'm right now in the school building for summer school, but my students are remote still. So I have it up there for me and the paraprofessionals, and they love it. They sit there and they were reading it. They like it. It helps. So you can even put it as part of your daily routine with your students, right? You can make that part of your routine with your students. You can have a quote of the day, right? I know like people have motivational Monday, right? You put a you make it cute and make it fun for them. Tuesday, like every day you can have a different theme, but put a positive quote. And you can even be part of your SEL lesson, right? Or any just like your check-in in the morning with your students. It can be part of your daily routine. One way to help you confident is practice your lesson. I know a lot of your teachers are going into the classroom for the first time, or for the first, second year. Practice your lesson at home. Record yourself, or do it in front of the mirror. If you practice your lessons, it'll make you feel a little bit more ready and prepared, and that's important, right? And being prepared. Don't wait 5 minutes before your class comes in to start putting together your lesson and activities. Some people can't do that because they're experts at it. They've been doing this. Mr. Julian's laughing. It can be something you know that you're good at. But if you're new, I don't suggest that at all. I don't suggest you just coming into school with nothing prepared, because that's going to increase your anxiety. It's going to make you feel very overwhelmed. You want to be prepared. All right, this is my lesson. These are the worksheets I'm going to use. This is the takeaway, my essential questions, right? I have some lesson plan templates that I'm going to go over with you guys later on in another boot camp session that I use that is very short, simple. I know I shared it with Mr. Julian, and a couple of other teachers use it. It has every part of the lesson that you need for, just in case you're being observed, right? The making sure that's aligned to the Common Core, or whatever standards your school is using, your beginning, your lesson, the I do, we do, you do technique, all that good stuff. You want to be prepared. You want to know what, and also you want to start with knowing what you want your students to get out of that lesson. That's what I always start with. I say, okay, I want my students, whether I'm doing like key details, for example, right? Something basic. I want my students to be able to tell me 2 things that about the story, right? Right. We start very small with District 75 or elementary, right? Okay. My goal of this lesson is for my students to tell me 2 things they got out of this lesson, or 2 things they got out of this story. Start backwards. That way, when you go into the lesson, you already know what your end goal is going to be. And then it helps you find those worksheets, find those videos, find those pictures, find whatever you're going to be using to teach the students the skills, the anchor charts, whatever. You already know my end goal is for this, because sometimes we start throwing in all these things in the lesson and then we forget what was the lesson objective, right? We start going into story elements, and we start going into character traits, and like no, focus on that one skill. If your students can take on more, then you can build on it. But remember, you want to be prepared, so you want to start small like that and start backwards and move and go in. Focus on your strengths. If you know that you're really good at engaging the students, you're really good at being animated or whatever, right? Focus on your strengths, and that's going to help you build the confidence for the other things, right? Steer away from negative thoughts and people. So this is where the positive affirmations, the positive self-talk, and the positive quotes are going to come in handy. We sometimes, our brains are just focused to think about the bad. Oh my goodness, I'm going to forget what to say. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, my kid's not going to be listening. Oh, the lesson's going to be boring, right? All these negative thoughts are going to come into mind. Also people. Okay, I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys. You think you're going into a school and everybody's like, oh, we love the kids. Let's take us a village. We're going to all do this as a team. No, there are people that are just negative because that's who they are. They're in the school system for the wrong reason. Oh, we get summers off. Oh, we got a good paycheck. Oh, we work only from 7 to 3. No, stop. You need to identify those people and stay away from them, because you are going to, but subconsciously you're feeding off that negative energy, and it's going to affect you and everything else. Okay, so stay away from negative thoughts and negative people. And if you got to cut people off for your own health, do it. Because again, you need to be the best version of yourself for your students in your classroom. And if your next door neighbor in your school pissed you off because they were saying something about your bulletin board, your students are going to feel that energy, and you're not going to be effective in that instructional, that lesson that you're teaching, or just your whole demeanor of the day is going to be thrown off. Okay. And this is where we're going to go into your whys. So here I shared some affirmations. Before we go into the whys, I'm going to share with you. So this is a picture. I took a picture of my board. These are some of the positive affirmations I put up. I only put 7. I mean, again, I don't have students in the classroom, so I just wrote them for me and the paraprofessionals in my classroom. Even as some teachers come in, they'll read it or whatever. But this is for me. Like I come in and I read it, and I'll read one or two, I'll just look through it or whatever. But you can do one a day if you want to make it part of your lesson, or if it's for yourself, you don't got to put it on your board. But I was like, let me take a picture of it and show it to you guys. This is also from here, 20 teacher affirmations to keep a positive mind. I'll share this in the guidebook as well. You can also Google, there's so many resources online, right? I go to Pinterest. Pinterest is my best friend. You can find so many ideas on Pinterest. So here are some positive affirmations that help me, right? It is okay to feel the way I feel. I'm not alone. I'm a valuable asset. I make a difference in my students' lives. With this one's very important, number 3, right? We need to know that we do make a difference. It might be a small difference. We might not see that difference, but we make a difference. All right. And the work you do every day matters. Right? You might have a lesson and it might not go as productive as you go as, the students didn't retain it. It's okay. It's okay. You still did your job, and you came and you did what you have to do. You did what you had to do. All right. And you're always doing the best you can. So here are different places you could post in your car, post it on your computer, post it on your mirror, post it in your classroom board, whatever works for you. Okay. So we're going to go into your why, right? Your why is why you went into education. I have videos here, but because of time, again, I'm going to share it. I'll email it to you guys later on if you guys want to go through the videos. But it's basically about the confidence, why confidence is important, kind of like what I just shared with you guys. So we need to think about your why. And I said earlier when we first started, think about your why you went into education. I know, I always see the same spark and passion into people that came into like the Teach America, Teacher Collaborative, I think it's called, Mr. Julian, you could correct me if I'm wrong, and Teaching Fellows, right? We are career changers. So we came into this, we knew what we were doing. We were not happy. We weren't fulfilling our purpose, right? So we kind of did a shift into education. But there's some, there are some people that came into the traditional way, or they might have different reasons why they came into education. But take a minute, because your why is very important. And when we did the leadership program for our administrative license, they focused on the why. And most of all the classes we took, they told us, remember your why. Your why is very important. As a paraprofessional, your why is important. As a teacher, everything you do in life, you have a why. Your why is your purpose, your reason. It keeps you grounded and it keeps you focused on what you're doing. So when things don't go the way you expected it to go, your why should bring you back to focus, right? So, I'm not sure if anybody wants to share their why. I know it could be maybe it's personal, but again, remember, your why is going to help you along the way. And if you want to share your why right now, you can unmute and share your why.
So one thing I want to add about that, Geneva, and I wrote in the chat, is that your why could change. So, and it's really situational, and it depends on the context that it's being used in. Right. So even on interviews or, in the classroom or as AP, your why shifts depending on the experiences that you have and the reasons for what you're doing. So it's still a tough question, really, when people talk about your why. It's such a tough question. Right. To try to put it into words, and it's something that I still struggle with, but you need to at least have a few bullets, phrases that you can always refer back to, and really it should be natural. You don't want to think about it too hard, because really it just is, why are you doing what you're doing? Right. What motivates you? What's your spark?
Right. So you have a why for teaching. You have a why for why you bought a car. You have a why you moved here. You have a why you have a relationship with somebody, right? So yes, your why changes. You have a why you want to go into leadership, right? And then as you grow and as you learn, there might be changes to your why. You might be added, some things might add to your why. But it's very important to remember that why, because there's going to be things that come your way. There's going to be people that come into your life where they're going to make you question what you do and how you do it, and if you should be doing it, right? So for example, my why I went into education, right? It's a very personal story. Not a lot of people know my why, but it does keep me focused on what's going on. So I dealt with the school system for my son. My son is 16 years old right now. I dealt with the school system when he was 5-6 years old. He was having a lot of behavior problems. We were in a school in New Jersey, and first he started in a private school. And, there are a lot of stigmatism. There's a lot of things they say, single parents have kids that act this way, or parents of, minorities, they have these behavior issues, or they all ADHD, or this and this and that, right? There's a lot of the things that are just put on us in society, right? So dealing with my son and dealing with the school system, they were always trying to toss him. He was in private school. They said they didn't have the resources for him because he was a very hyper kid. He wasn't being challenged enough, okay? My kid is a very brilliant kid. He was very smart. He just was not being challenged enough. They wanted him to sit down. They wanted him to sit still and not do other things. As an educator, we need to know me. That's why it's important to learn your students, right? Because if you see that a child is having a difficult time sitting down, give him a job in the classroom, have him give out stuff, have him water the plants, give him a responsibility so that he's doing things, give him a fidget toy, right? Give him something. If he doesn't want to sit on the chair, let him sit on the floor, whatever's comfortable, right? Like I sit on the floor with my kids. I mean, now it's, with the pandemic, things are gonna be different, but I used to do lessons on the rug. I used to do lessons. And my kid want to stand, we work with the kids. They walk around. We have a lot of kids that walk around. They can't sit down. They have sensory issues. We work with our students. We don't teach them the way, there's a quote, and I'm probably going to chop it up right now, but if the kids don't learn the way we teach, we have to teach the way they learn. I think that's, yeah. So like, we have to just figure it out. And dealing with that experience with my son, I realized that there was, I had no idea about, the school system. This was my first son going into the school system. I had no idea what was going on. And they were always just blaming household, blaming, oh, we're not doing, we have to do, he needs to go see doctors, he needs to see this, he needs to see that, right? So I finally got involved, like fully involved in this process. We shipped him to a public school. That public school was in New Jersey. They really didn't have the resources for him. They were blaming us, blaming our parenting. They were pointing fingers instead of sharing what they can do in the school for him, right? I had to take leave of absence from work. Thank goodness my boss was awesome. I was with him for a long time. So he took care of me. I took a leave of absence. I started focusing solely on my son going to school. His school would allow parents to come in and watch in the classroom. And I don't know if schools still do that now. And I would just come in and watch how the teacher was working with him and watch what they were doing to meet his needs. And it was nothing. They were ignoring him. He raised his hand. I remember one time standing behind in the back window watching, he's raising his hand to say something, impulse he had, and he's very impulsive. He needed to be, and he's in kindergarten. What kid doesn't want to share what they have to share in kindergarten? Even if it's about what happened at home, it doesn't matter, right? Acknowledge that. Pay attention, say, hey, give me a minute, let's finish this, and then you can share what you have to share, right? Ignored him until he got up and made sure he got his attention, it was just the way the teacher was handling him was, she didn't have the experience or the time or the patience for him. Excuses that I got in the meetings was, I have 10 years of experience in schools. I have 20 years of experience. And what I said was, you don't have that experience with my child. You don't have that experience with every child. And you need to realize that no two children are the same, right? No two children are the same. And you need to figure out what that child needs, listen to them and meet their needs. So as I became more involved and just really was voicing myself and really advocating for my son, I started realizing they had all these programs. They had an art program. They had a reading program. They weren't sharing with him. There was no room. I said, make room for my child. Make room for my child. Finally got him into the art program. The art therapy was amazing. Art therapy is so helpful for all students, no matter if they have a disability or not. Yeah. Then they had a reading program where they can let him go into other classrooms and read to younger students, let him tutor other students. He did that. My son would go into the library, read to the younger students, the pre-K. He would read to the first graders. My son was advanced. He eventually got skipped. Long story short, he got the services, he got the help he needed because we came back into New York. He came into New York school system, which has a lot of resources and support if parents know this. They advocate and they do what they have to do. My son got into a great program. He was in a self-contained class. Then he finally went into an ICT class. He's about to graduate next year from high school. He's doing amazing. He doesn't need any, service providing regular, related services anymore. But because, I advocated and also because I put him into the school that needed, and he had teachers that eventually cared for him and took the time. Then that was my why, because I went in, I said, I need to be that for other kids. I need to realize I need to provide that to other students and realize that if they're acting out, figure out why. Like, why are they acting this way? Just don't throw them and keep on giving them suspensions after suspensions, or calling parents out of work, or not providing them with the resources that you have available, but you're just not giving it to them because you don't want to take the time to do that. So that was a little long-winded. I tried to sum it up, but that is my why I went into education. Okay, because I know that no two students can be treated the same. No two students need the same support or help or resources, and you need to figure out what that child needs. And then just don't use don't justify it with, I have 20 years of experience in the school system, I have 10 years of experience. Don't ever say that. Don't use the amount of time you've had in school to justify why a child is acting the way they act, or why you're not, providing the support they need, because no two students are the same. And you need to take the time and effort to build those relationships, to figure out what they need. If they would have took the time, they would have realized that my son was awesome in art, and it was an outlet for him, right? You would have realized that my son is not being challenged. Your work was not rigorous enough. So when you gave him that worksheet and he was done, he needed more. Once he got it, they skipped him a grade. He was so into what he was doing and he was challenged. His behaviors decreased. But it took the time and the effort, and some teachers that actually took the time and cared about it. So that is my why. So, and it changes. Right now I want to go into leadership. So while that is still part of my why into education, now it's going to be on a grander scale why I want to go into leadership, but it still includes that why I went into the educational system. So your why helps you. So like when things get rough during the pandemic, all these teachers, I want to quit. I can't do this. I don't feel supported by administration. Yeah, that sucks. And guess what? You're not going to feel the support you feel like in all schools. Principals are going through a lot of stuff too. It was very trying time for everyone. It was everybody's breaking point, and when I took my leadership classes, it gave me a shift to think like a leader, to try to put myself in their shoes. And I kind of was a little bit more empathetic. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna fall back and stop being so hard on my leaders, on my administration, because I know that they're going through something that's new to them too. It's new to us, it's new to them. And they're human just like us. Right. And they don't have all the answers, because we were building, building the plane as we was flying, or building the boat as we were, whatever you know what I'm saying. We didn't know. So you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. But knowing your why is important, and staying grounded in your why, because it's going to help you when you're being challenged or you're facing different things. So if here I put another video here on this was really awesome. They share this with us in a little group, knowing your why, and it helps with your next decisions, right? Simon, I think it's like 3 minutes. Let me show it really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. You guys hear it? Well, let me change it up. Okay. Right. So this is like a little different, right? So your why, like this you can use for whenever you're making any decisions, right? It could be as big as deciding to have a position in a school, or deciding to go into leadership, or deciding to leave your position and go into another field. Kind of like Nicole, she went and now she's doing wellness. She was in the classroom, now she shifted, right? What is your why? What is your motivation, right? We have to think about what motivated you to get into the educational field. Why did you decide to make this change? Okay. And then you got to think of like the process, what actions are needed to take, you need to take. And then what do you do? Does anybody want to build it? Jenna, you want to build on this? I know we learned this about this in our leadership class.
I think you pretty much said it. I can attach to the full TED Talk. I know that
yeah.
it was very motivational, and really it just is all about that golden circle and keeping your why close to you, and what motivates you and how you're going to get to where you want to be.
Right. So it'll be a part of our guidebook if you guys want to check it out. It's actually longer, but again, because of time, I wanted to just pull out this little snapshot of it. But it's a real good TED Talk. It's very helpful, and it tells you how important that why is. The why is so important. Does anybody want to share theirs before we move on?
I'll just say one thing, sorry. I feel like personally during the most challenging times, and I guess you can relate it to the COVID pandemic, you need your why. When you feel like giving up, when you feel like, you know, is this worth it? Just your most stressful times during your career, or, you know, professionally or personally, honestly, it's nice to just know your why. And, you know, something that I always do is before I make a big decision or before I do something new, like before I went into the administrative program, I wrote down my why, and I really tried to ground myself a little bit and say, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why am I making this decision? So just try to keep it close to you during, you know, your best and your worst moments.
Right. Thank you, Jenna. All right. No one wants to share. Oh, okay, Mr. Julian.
I'll just say, I'm going to be a dean in September, and I'm really questioning, did I really want to do this? You know, I'm only 3 years in, and, you know, my original why was I engaged my clients on, sometimes I'll say clients when I mean students, and sometimes when I want to talk about my students, I'll say clients, because that mentality is still there.
Right.
But just the dynamic, just switching dynamic from social worker to teacher, my why was just and I value education so much, I imparted that on my daughter. And that's part of the reason I chose to actually go for teaching, was throughout her middle school, she was in, you know, the gifted program. And, you know, when she transitioned to high school, the teacher she had in her advanced English class was a college professor, and she taught as a college professor. And my daughter was struggling with that because she's 14 and she's just out of middle school, and you want to teach her like she's, you know, a senior in college. So I helped my daughter with that in terms of, and I bought the books that she was reading, and we read the books together, and I gave her tips on, you know, how the teacher would be approaching it. And that gave me the confidence to finally make the move and go into teaching. So my why was basically just to, in that dynamic of meeting the students where they are and actually trying to educate them. And just, again, like I said, I love the development that you see in the students, and just the personalities that they have when you actually, you know, get to actually see them for who they are.
Right.
And, you know, that's part of my why, is just educating the students, getting to learn with the students,
Right.
and just the interactions you have with them. But, you know, being a dean, it's like, oh man, now I have to remember that's why I got into this. You know, you have to continue that relationship. That's the most important part. You know, you want to reach the students where they are, and just keep yourself grounded in that way.
Right. It's very important. Thank you, Mr. Julian, especially when you are going to be a dean. So a dean in our school it's a little challenging because you know, he's gonna be dealing a lot with the behaviors. And a lot of the students, he's going to be dealing with the behaviors that are happening in the classroom, removing the students, and are you going to be working with them in like the crisis room, the cool down room? I'm not sure what they call it anymore.
Well, we call it the mediation room.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, so I'll be going into the classroom and removing students that, you know, are challenging at that moment.
Right.
And
So
taking
he's
them
going to
to
need
the
a relationship with
mediation room.
all these students. That's why it's so important. In a position like that, that means all the students in school, he's eventually going to come in, you know, in interaction with, and he's going to have to get to know them and build this relationship with them. That way, when they come to him, he's going to know the coping strategies to help them with the material they might need, the resources they might need, right? Whether it's taking a walk, whether it's listening to a song or fidget toy
Right.
or a stress ball, right? He's going to need to know that. And that's why relationships are important. So you in the classroom, that's going to be important for you too, because even if you're not in special education, students have behaviors that might disrupt the instructional time. It might not be safe, you know, for the other students. It might take away from that instructional time. So you building those relationships early on is going to help eliminate those things. You're going to notice the triggers. You're going to notice something escalating, and you're going to quickly be able to de-escalate it and redirect the students, right? So that's why we keep stressing relationships. You're gonna see how important that is. It really is. Sometimes you might not even get into the lesson because there's so much going on with that. You have to continue building those relationships and focusing on what's going on with that student at the moment. So these are the reasons why your why is so important. It gives you purpose, right? I shared my why, Mr. Julian shared his why, you know, like it's important. So if you didn't share it, it's okay. Just think about it, right? Think about it over the weekend, during the week, like what is your why? And it gives you your purpose. It should give you your purpose as to why you went into education. It keeps you focused. Because things are not going to always be perfect. Things are not going to always be like it is in movies, right? Like there's going to be a lot of stressful situations, especially like we said, when we hit the pandemic hit, we were thrown. It was just insane, right? We had to just shift the whole way we were programmed to teach, the whole way we were programmed to meet out the needs of our students. And we had to digitalize everything. We had to figure out how to get them on this, you know, screen, teach them. We had to find resources. We had to shift whatever material we use in the class and try to get it online. It was a lot, but it should keep you focused. It's your motivation. You're not gonna always have great days, right? You're not gonna always wake up all, oh yeah, I want to run to work and be, you know, awesome at what I do. You're not gonna have that all the time, but your why should keep you motivated. It reminds you of your beliefs and values. There's going to be so many things coming your way. You know, a lot of politics was coming into play during the pandemic. A lot of things were happening, and your why should keep you grounded in your beliefs and in your values, and that shouldn't shift, right? And it gives you the confidence. Again, it goes back to your confidence. You remember your why, and it's really the reason why you went into education and became doing what you're doing is going to help you move forward throughout the day when you are lacking that confidence. All right, so this is the positive affirmations that worked for me. Here's a video. I guess I'll share it on the guidebook. It's basically everything I just said. It just builds a little bit more on it. Again, Pinterest, Google, there's so many resources online for teacher affirmations, no matter how you're feeling. If you're feeling anxiety, you could find anxiety affirmations. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you feel lost, confused, shy, nervous, jealous, there's so many affirmations online. And now we're gonna go into our teacher self-care awareness, right? Wellness with Nicole. So again, you know, it all ties into having your confidence and remembering your why. You have to take care of yourself. All that positive self-talk, all those positive affirmations, remembering your why, your value, your beliefs, that all ties into taking care of yourself. So I will give you the floor, Nicole.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everyone. Just want to take a moment to scroll through everyone's screens. It's so nice seeing with you, being able to connect with you virtually. So I just want to start off by really commending you for being here. I just acknowledge each and every one of you for making this commitment to show up to the camp, because it really says a lot about how much you care about your students and about your job. So thank you on behalf of your students for being here. And I want to share just a little bit of background about me, about how I came into this and why I'm so passionate about educator and teacher wellness. So I took the kind of like old school route into teaching. I wanted to be a teacher since I was in high school, and I got my undergrad in education. And then I moved to the UK to get my master's degree. And while I was there, I started teaching in London. So I've taught in London. I've also taught in Southside Chicago and the Bronx. And as I was going through my teaching journey, I constantly heard, especially leading up to that first year, about how, oh, the first year is just about keeping your head above the water. It's trial by fire, like all of these things that are kind of intimidating, but I knew it was going to be challenging going in. So as I continued through that first year, I very quickly started to burn out and experience signs of burnout and overwhelm. I was anxious. I was crying every day. I just felt really overwhelmed. And I had no work-life balance. My entire life was consumed by my job. I was teaching AP literature and also a college reading readiness course that had a heavy emphasis on SAT scores. So it was a really high pressure class for me to teach, because I had to be like showing the gains that the students were making. And it was just a lot of pressure. And by the end of that first year, I was already burnt out. And having to go through that and just pouring all of my energy into my students, I had nothing left for myself. By the end of that second year, I was on the verge of having a mental breakdown. And I actually had to go to therapy. I had to really learn about different tools and resources to help myself so that I could show up as a better teacher for my students. So once I did get to that point of feeling really balanced, feeling really good, it was so noticeable to me just what a better version of myself I showed up as and how much that impacted my students and the classroom environment, the classroom culture. And I also began to see how many other teachers, and Geneva touched on this earlier, how many other teachers are in a negative mindset or they're there for the wrong reasons. And I just don't think that's fair to the students. It's not fair to the teachers. It's not fair to the students. So I feel really passionately about teachers taking care of themselves first in order to be better teachers, because you deserve to feel good and your students deserve to have a teacher who's excited to be there and excited to teach them. So opening this, I'd love to know, and you can put it in the chat, what's your number one priority as a teacher? If you think about, and this probably relates to your why, like what's the number one thing you would say that you're focused on as a teacher? And you can just put that in the chat. Building relationships. Yes, that is so, so important. Your relationships with your students is everything. That is the foundation for which the curriculum unfolds. If you don't have good relationships with your students, it doesn't matter if you have an amazing lesson, they're not going to care because they don't want to be in your class because they don't have a good relationship with you. So that's super important. Engaging with students. Yes, students that have disabilities within my classroom and working with them. Absolutely. So all of these are super important, right? Like we're here for the students. I know that not everyone shared their why, but I'm willing to guess that it has something to do with your students and really showing up for them. Building relationships with students, other teachers and parents, absolutely. So this is where I want to come in with some of my philosophy around this, which is that your number one priority as a teacher gets to be yourself. It gets to be your well-being, because if you show up with an empty cup, you have nothing left to give. And students, children, even all the way through like being teenagers, they're so perceptive. They're so intuitive. You might come in with like a fake smile plastered on your face, but they know. Like they can kind of feel you out and read what kind of energy or like what's your vibe, and they feed off of that. You have so much power in your classroom, you and the other adults, in the sense that in a lot of ways, you are setting and dictating the mood of the classroom. So if you come in tired and you're clearly like not really wanting to be there, or you're just really low level energy, that's going to translate into everything that you are doing in the classroom. So your number one priority gets to be yourself. Nothing could be more important than taking care of your well-being. So I really want to break this down into two different categories of how you can look after yourself. So we have the big picture, and then we have the moment to moment. So if we're looking at big picture, we're thinking doing things to take care of yourself. This is kind of traditionally what we think of as self-care. So that looks like, you know, what are things that balance you? For some people, that's yoga, that's practicing meditation on a daily basis, that's eating foods that nourish your body and give you energy and sustain you. Setting boundaries is a huge one when it comes to big picture wellness. So as teachers, especially, I think this is true for myself. This is true for a lot of people that I worked with and interacted with. Teachers are so caring. They're so loving. Like they want to show up for their students, and sometimes have a tendency to overextend themselves. And so this could look like you want to put together a really amazing lesson. And so you are spending all hours of your evening almost every day doing this, like finding the perfect video, finding like putting the slides, making them really interactive, making the most creative worksheets that you can make. And while that is super important, it's also essential to be mindful of how much time are you spending on work and how much time are you spending on yourself? And this really comes down to just being observational. Do you spend like a long time at work and then you come home and then you still have hours of work to do and you're kind of scrambling to get dinner together? And then like for me, the first year, especially teaching classes that had a lot of emphasis on like the curriculum, I spent so much time just creating lesson plans and trying to make things as engaging as possible. And I didn't have a line of when to stop. So there were a lot of nights when I would be lesson planning until 9, 10 p.m., having kind of like a not nourishing, like rushed dinner, just eating for the sake to like quickly wolf something down, and then just getting ready to go to bed and going to sleep, and then rinse and repeat every day. I didn't have the boundary of, okay, you know what, when 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever time feels good for you, when that time hits, I'm done. I'm closing my computer, and letting go of the perfectionism that's driving me to stay up like all hours into the night trying to make my lesson plan. So just remembering that the version of you that you're showing up as, that's just as, if not more important, as the way that you're delivering the content. It doesn't need to be perfect. The students are going to learn more and benefit more if you're showing up well rested and happy, as opposed to if you had, an extra slide with some fancy doodahs on it. So be mindful of how much time you are spending doing work. Another boundary to look at is when it comes to like your lunch period. What are you doing on your lunch period? Is that a time that any adult can just come in and have your attention? Do you have your lunch period open to students like every day? What does that look like for you? Because at the end of the day, you need some time to check in with yourself. You need some time to recharge. And if you make yourself available at all times, people they're gonna take advantage of that. Checking when you have boundaries around like your email. So we used to get like weekly emails. I know this is a really common practice in a lot of schools, like Monday announcements from the principal. And what I would do Monday morning when I woke up, first thing I would do is check my email and read the Monday announcements. And immediately it would give me like a wash of anxiety of like, okay, I have all these things I need to do. And I had barely even gotten out of bed yet. Or checking my email before I go to bed and then seeing, oh, geez, a parent emailed me. I need to get back to this right now. Have boundaries around all of that. The amazing thing about teaching is that, and this is something my cooperating teacher said to me and really stuck with me when I was interning, is that no one is open on the table. And that's to say that this isn't open heart surgery, right? We don't need to be available at every time. It's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if you didn't answer that parent email within the hour that they sent it. Your boundaries are more important because that's what keeps you centered. That's what keeps you balanced. And as it relates to boundaries, you get to get crystal clear on what these are. So if it's something vague where it's like, well, my boundary is I'm not gonna work into the late hours of the evening. I'm not gonna check my email in the morning. Get really specific. What times are attached to this? And what's that gonna look like? You have to honor your boundaries. You have to be your own biggest advocate. If you don't honor your boundaries, no one is going to honor them. And I just want to touch back quickly on like the lunchtime boundary, because this was one that I really just wasn't even aware of for years when I was teaching. Like lunch was kind of an open time. I'd have students filtering in and out. There would be adults coming in and out. And so often, more often than not, it would be the last 10 minutes in the lunch period. I haven't eaten or drank anything. I haven't even like gone to the bathroom, and I have a class coming in, and now I'm rushing around trying to get everything. And when that last period class comes in, I'm like a little bit frazzled. So instead, what I started doing after I realized like what a toll this was taking is that when like an adult, for example, would come in and be like, hey, I need to run this by you or whatever, I would say, oh, okay, absolutely. Can you shoot that in an email to remind me? Or I'm just going to eat right now. Can I get back to you at the end of the day? Like you can set your boundaries in a way that's kind and respectful while also being firm and like standing up for yourself. So get crystal clear on your boundaries and remember that they are your responsibility. Be your own biggest advocate. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about moment to moment. So moment to moment well-being is what I found to be the most powerful way to shift your wellness and self-care routines. Moment to moment wellness looks like being present in the moment, as it suggests, being really mindful of what's going on in your body, what's going on in your mind, and recognizing like, what do I need right now? So okay, sorry, just checking my notes. Okay, so for example, has this ever happened to you? Like you're at work and you're teaching and there's so much that needs to be done. Teaching is so many moving pieces happening at once and you kind of go on autopilot. And Geneva mentioned this earlier. It's very easy. Like a lot of educators do go on autopilot And that's okay, like it happens, but trying to pull yourself out of that autopilot. So when your prep period comes, instead of being like, okay, I have 45 minutes, I need to get all this done, boom, 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 just taking a couple minutes and checking in. How am I feeling right now? What's going on in my mind? Being aware of the way that you're speaking to yourself, being aware of your emotional state. Am I feeling tired right now? Am I feeling stressed out? And sometimes when we have so much on our plate of things to do, we can find it difficult to even notice how we are feeling. So if you check in and ask yourself, like, how am I feeling right now? And you're like, I don't really know how I'm feeling, or I feel meh, I'm fine. I'm fine. That's like a good indicator. If you're just like, yeah, I'm fine, that there's something like going on, that there's something to pay attention to. So if it is the case that you're like, I don't even know how to discern how I'm feeling, this is when you get to turn your attention to your physical body. So the physical body can give us so much information about what's happening internally. If you, Geneva, could you just click to the next slide? So I just want to give you this little chart to kind of reference and look at to help you decipher what state am I in right now. So this is talking about your nervous system. Okay, so this has to do with like your heart rate, your breathing, and just what overall state you are in that moment. So we spend probably most of our teaching days in the active or alert state, where like you're on, you know what's happening, you're making quick decisions in your head, you're like tuned into all of your students, and you're on stage, right? So much about teaching is being on stage and being tuned in with the different needs of your learners. And not just like their academic needs, but like, how is this child feeling today, right? Like there's so much that you are constantly assessing and needing to make on your feet decisions about as a teacher. So we do spend a lot of time in that active alert state. If you are in that state for too long, or you have like too much, you're overwhelmed, you're anxious, so much going on in your head, that can transition into the fight or flight mode. And you're probably all familiar with this. This can be like, especially if you're feeling very anxious, you enter that fight or flight mode where you're kind of like on edge a little bit, almost a little bit frantic. And going on the other end of the spectrum, we have the calm state. This is when your body returns to homeostasis. You're chilling. It's like, okay, it's really important that you cycle through the calm and the active states throughout the day. If you're not paying attention to this, you can spend too much time in the fight or flight mode, and it's hard for your body to disengage from that. So even at the end of the day, when you've done everything you need to do and it's time to relax, you're still feeling a little on edge. You might find it hard to calm down because you've been in that state all day, and that's just, your body gets used to it. So we want to make sure that we're like transitioning, giving ourselves time, giving our nervous system time to calm and relax during the school day. So this is just to give you like a reference of what these different states look like. And you can just kind of look this over, how your muscles are feeling, noticing if you're feeling more tense or if they're feeling more loose and relaxed. Your heart rate, of course, your skin, like, are you getting sweaty? Like for me, this might be an overshare, maybe not, I don't know. When I get anxious, I sweat. Like I, especially when I was really anxious those first 2 years, I was like, oh man, I'm a mess over here. That was my body telling me like, honey, you are in overdrive right now, but I wasn't listening to the signs because I was on autopilot. So paying attention to your physical body, your breathing is probably the fastest and easiest way to assess where is my nervous system at right now. When you are in that active or fight or flight stage, it's common that your breathing will be up in your chest. It will be more rapid. It will be short and shallow. And this actually perpetuates that fight or flight state of being. The more shallow that you are breathing and the more fast, it's actually like your body's not getting enough oxygen. So it's just adding on to this like nervousness, this frantic energy. And then of course, when you're more relaxed, you might notice your breathing is deeper in your belly, it's slower, it's more peaceful. So check in with your physical body and see how you are feeling, especially if you check in mentally and you're like, I don't know what the heck's going on right now. I just feel like I'm very busy in my mind. All right. So, Okay, I want to just give you guys a couple examples of things that you can do if you do notice, okay, I am in the fight or flight mode right now. Like, what can I do to check in, or what can I do to bring my nervous system back to a place of homeostasis, back to a place of calm? So one of those things that you can do is a quick breathing exercise that I'm actually going to go through with you guys. It takes literally 2 minutes. It's super simple. It's, teachers, time is of the essence. Time is precious. So these are quick things that you can do. So we'll do that at the end. Having a buddy in the building, this is really important. And we were talking about this a little bit in the chat, and Geneva also touched on this about finding your people in the building. So being really mindful of like, what's the energy of the people you're around? And if they are negative, if they are complaining about the kids, if they're complaining about everything, they're tired, they're this, they're that, get away from them. Like, they will bring you down, and that's okay. Like, we're all doing the best we can, and they may not even have an awareness that they're doing that. You don't need to judge them for it, but just be observational on your end about who you're surrounding yourself with. And I would say, especially pay attention to this in the teacher's lounge. So like the school I worked at in Chicago, the teacher's lounge, yikes, like it was just a place of complaining and misery. And I left there feeling defeated every time. And so, but in other schools I've worked at, the teacher's lounge was chill and it was great. So just be aware of like the school culture, be aware of the collective mindset of the educators, and just know that you get to make your own empowered choices about how you are viewing the way that things are unfolding. You get to have choice about the way that you are thinking and having a more positive mindset about things. Okay, one thing that I would love to do is doing a forward fold. So I don't know if anyone is familiar with yoga, but it's literally like you stretch your arms up and then you just bend over at the waist. And I would just kind of stand there and like shake my head around and imagine like I'm shaking out all of the negativity, or I'm shaking out all of the tired thoughts. And this was something that I would do sometimes during class also. Like, these are things that you can do even when you have students in the room. If that doesn't resonate with you, or you don't do yoga, just like doing some stretching, right? Just getting in your body a little bit, stretching your arms out, doing some twists, taking deep breaths, all really helpful. Going outside, if you can just go outside for a couple minutes on your prep period, super helpful. If you can't get outside, put your face in the sun and just take a couple deep breaths if you have access to the sun, like through your classroom window, or go to someone else's classroom. Putting on an intentional song and take in the room around you. So this is especially helpful if you are in that kind of like panic mode, is put on something that's going to relax you, and then just observe your surroundings. What does the air feel like? What's the temperature of the air? What is your breathing like? What can you hear? What can you see? Just bringing it really back to basics, because when our bodies enter that fight or flight mode, your body thinks that there is a serious threat. Like, to your body, it's like there might be a murderer knocking on the door right now. We need to be on high alert, but that's not actually happening, right? You get to remind yourself, like, I'm safe, I'm secure, like everything is okay in this moment. Even if I don't respond to that email in time, or, XYZ doesn't happen in time, it is okay. So just coming back to your surroundings, grounding yourself can be really helpful. And the thing that I love about doing these during class, like the amount of times that my students saw me just breathing in the back or just doing some stretching, and they're like, "Miss, what are you doing?" And I would explain to them, right? Like, I'm feeling a little anxious, or I just needed to take a breather. Do you want to do it with me? Be a model for self-care and wellness in your classroom. And this is something that I would love to do with my students when, especially like the class periods when they're coming in after lunch, I would put on soothing music. I would turn off one of the lights. So when they come in, the environment is indicating to them like, okay, we're settling in. Some of them were like on sugar rushes, or they're just really excited after hanging out with their friends for the lunch period. It just kind of like settles the energy down, or vice versa. First period, when the kids would come in and they're just so tired, putting on something a little bit upbeat and having like a cheery mood to help lift them up. So really being like a role model for that in your classroom, for doing these little check-ins with yourself. And let's see. Okay, so I want to make sure we honor time. So I do want to do this quick breathing exercise with you guys. So I invite you to find a comfortable seat. And like I said, this is something that can be done in 2 minutes or less. And Just to tell you a little bit about what you can expect. So we're going to be doing a breathing pattern for 90 seconds, and then we're going to be holding our breaths for 30 seconds, and then we're going to be releasing it all, exhaling. So as we're doing the breathing pattern, you might notice a little bit of dizziness, a little bit of tingling in your extremities or fingers or lips. You can also notice a bit of a temperature change occurring in your body. All of this is normal and it is completely safe. If it makes you feel really uncomfortable, feel free to just release the breathing pattern. You are in control. And the other thing I want to say about that is when we go into the breath hold, you might notice that there's some kind of mental chaos that happens in your mind. Like it's common for our brains to be like, what the heck is happening right now? Like, why is she or he holding her breath? Like, we don't know what's happening. We don't like this. And I invite you to just observe that. Can you observe the way that your mind reacts when you let your body take control? All right, so find a comfortable seat. You want to make sure that your back is nice and tall. And you can just squeeze your shoulders up to your ears and then just relax them down your back. Gently. Oh, let me just show you the breathing pattern we're going to use is a 3-part breathing pattern. It's done all through the mouth. It's an inhale into the belly, into the chest, and then exhaling through the mouth. So it looks and sounds like this. I invite you to find a speed and a pace that feels comfortable for you. We're going for depth over speed here. All right, so whenever you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and start the timer and we're going to start the breathing pattern. Beautiful, and just keep the pattern going. Remember, you're going for depth over here. So really feeling your inhales expand into your lower belly, letting out all of the air on the exhale. Continuing to breathe. Acknowledging what's going on in your mind. This might feel like a long time to be breathing like this. We're about a minute. We have 30 seconds left of the breathing pattern. All right, and these final 10 seconds, really give it all you got here. Last breaths. And ending in 3, 2, 1. Taking a deep breath in through your mouth. Exhaling. And just holding your breath. Noticing what the mind is doing right now. Seeing if you can feel your heart beating in your chest. And taking a deep breath in 3, 2, 1. Just allowing yourself to breathe normally and noticing any shifts that have occurred in your physical or mental state. Noticing if you feel a bit more calm, a bit more clear. And opening your eyes when you feel ready. And so if you did try this with us, if you did do the breathing pattern with us, I'd love to know, like, how was that in the chat? Did you notice any shifts in how you felt? And this is just to emphasize that checking in with your breath, taking a moment to just be in your physical body really can just help you clear out, help you recenter and ground yourself so that you can feel more resourced for the tasks ahead. So very calming. I'm so glad. So that is what I will leave you with. Thank you guys so much for being open to this, for listening. And I would love to connect with you. Find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is there at Wellness with Miss Wolf. And I also have a teacher Facebook group. So I'm not sure if the link is visible to you on the slide. I can't see it on mine, so I'll
Okay,
put the
hold on.
link.
Let me, no, I'll just make it, I'll take it out of presentation mode so they can see it. And then
Oh,
I'll
awesome.
back up.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so you can find most of the people, there's about, I think like 450 or so educators in there. Most of them are based in New York City, but we welcome everyone from everywhere. So join us there for just weekly inspo on how you can take care of yourself and how you can check in with yourself. And oh, last thing, if you go on my Instagram, there's also in the link in my bio, you can get a free meditation. So you can have that sent straight to your email. So thank you guys so much. And I look forward to connecting with you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I'm going to share this chart in our guidebook at the end so they can have it to use as a guide and reference. Thank you so much, Nicole. Did you guys enjoy that? Was that helpful for you guys? Yeah, yeah. Okay, awesome. So I'll add that. That's where I met Nicole, on her Facebook page group, and it's very resourceful, very helpful. So check it out. Again, we have to focus on self-care and our own well-being before we can, be better for our students. And also modeling. I love how you said that, Nicole, modeling it for the students. They'll see you doing it, they'll do it, they'll start practicing it. And so many strategies and things that you said in there, the mindfulness is definitely important to teach our students to be mindful and aware of what's happening with their body and how everything is connected. Right? We work, and sometimes we don't even realize that our bodies are speaking to us and we ignore it. Right? Everything's connected. The way our brain, our bodies, we need rest. We need to rest. We need to sleep. It works. And also even just our overall well-being. There's so many medical issues that come up because we don't take care of ourselves and we don't think that it's connected to us overworking ourselves, not eating properly, not sleeping, not just taking time to reset. It's so important. So thank you, Nicole, for that. And I felt that was very important for week 1 because this is things you want to start practicing now. School's about to start. For yourself, you want to practice this and also bring it into the classrooms for your students, and also share with your coworkers, because everyone can benefit from wellness and self-care. So thank you so much for that, Nicole. Please follow her page, interact on her page. Her Instagram has a lot of awesome things. So this is going to be a wrap up of today. Again, today was all about your confidence and remembering your why, which is very important. That's going to set the tone and foundation for this boot camp moving forward with every week and the topics we are going to focus on. So wrapping it up this week at home, I would highly recommend it. It's not required. You're not going to get any points or any stars for this, but reflect on this week's boot camp. What were your major takeaways? Think of 3 to 5 positive affirmations that speak to you. So whether you want to use the links that I shared, again, I will share with you guys at the end of the bootcamp so you can check it out. The videos that we shared, also the links about the why, the TED Talk we spoke about. Do your own research. Again, Google is your best friend. You can really search anything. Also, any of your friends on social media. Nicole has an awesome social media platform. I have a social media platform. Try to connect with one another if possible. If you have a social media that you're using for education and you want to share that, you can drop your handle and all that information now in the chat box. I think that would be very important. That's one of the goals of this bootcamp as well, is to create a community of educators, like-minded individuals that are, working for the same purpose and goal. It's very important to have your community inside and outside of the school. So if you want to share that in the chat box, you can share that. I can also send it in an email to everyone that's here today. That way you have it. But use social media to help you with these resources. Also for positive affirmations, positive affirmations, sorry. You look on Pinterest, you can Google anything based on whatever you're feeling, whatever kind of positive messages you need or quotes or inspiration, you can search that. 3 to 5 positive affirmations that speak to you. Think of what your why is. If you're not sure of your why, and today we brought it up, maybe start thinking about it and repeat it to yourself. Remember that. Remember, it's always going to shift based on what you're working on and what you're doing, and you can build on that as well. Self-care. Think of the self-care that Nicole shared with us and what you would try. I think that breathing was very helpful for me. made me feel very relaxed. I did feel lightheaded because I've never used that type of breathing before, but I'm sure once I do it and it becomes part of my routine, I will feel different. But overall, I felt very relaxed at the end. A bonus tip. So I usually tell my students this, I tell friends this, whenever you think you have a negative thought, try to replace it right after with something positive, whether you write it down or maybe even say it out loud. So if I'm with a friend and they say something negative, I'm like, all right, now say something positive, share something positive, something that you're grateful for right now. Sometimes people keep grateful journal, like about things they're grateful for. Keep a journal, use your notepads, write things down that can help you. Remember, the point is to shift your mindset. Stop thinking so negative and being so hard on yourself and down, and try to shift to a positive mindset and writing things down, putting things in place that are going to help you, whether it's a post-it, whether it's your notepad, whether it's having a friend, a buddy that's going to keep you, thinking positive, or saying it out loud. So whenever I think something negative, I try to say something positive, right? Or write down something positive. It tends to help. And it's all about you reprogramming your brain to think a certain way. Okay, so let me check the chat box before we wrap it up. Next week, thank you. This is your attitude determines your direction. So I every week I'm going to share a little quote at the end based on what we were working on. That is my contact information. You have Nicole's contact information. Try to reflect on everything we just spoke about. And is there anything you want to share, any takeaways you have before we wrap up today's session? Nobody? Okay, so I'm just trying to check the chat before I end it because I think it might not let me share anything. All right, Jennifer has, and Jennifer, that is at Jennifer, what is that on Twitter?
Twitter and Insta.
Perfect. And wellness with Miss Wolf. Perfect. Okay. Let me just read the bottom. All right. Awesome. So we are going to next week start at 10. And next week's topic is going to be all about being a lifelong learner. And we're going to share ways. We're going to have Miss Dr. Sam and also Shanae is going to share, and we're going to be focusing on how you can be a lifelong learner, accepting that you don't know everything, and we're going to provide you with resources and how you can actually learn outside of school and inside. Because remember, learning is not only, you don't wait for administration to give you ways to learn. You need to learn how to learn on your own. All right. So thank you guys for joining us, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.